Hey, thanks so much for clicking on this video and welcome to the Haves and the Have-Nots review here on YouTube. If you're a fan of Tyler Perry, you've come to the right place. Be sure to click that subscribe button as well as the bell notification icon. That way you don't miss out on any new content on the channel. And also check me out on these social media platforms, and links in the description below will lead you to my Twitter, Instagram, Facebook group, and Facebook page. Once again, thanks for joining in and enjoy the video. All right, have and have not fans. Now, this is a very lethal kind of video because I never thought ever that Hanna would possibly be the one to end Jim Cryer. Based off the last episode, we know for a fact that instead of threatening Benny, he now threatens Hanna with the fact that if the money doesn't come back, then pretty much, we pretty much can fill in the blanks here. I will say this much. It would not surprise me if Hanna is able or capable of, well, I doubt killing Jim herself, but pulling a Candace and getting the means and the right people to get the job done. I could see that happening. I feel that it is definitely going to be set up because when you think about it, there are so many people who could be visiting Hanna's house within the next 24 hours or so. You have Candace, who threatened to send someone after her mother, but it is up in the air as to whether or not that's actually going to happen due to the fact that Charles and his team pretty much has her under lock and key. So it's unknown whether or not she can actually get away with something like that. Then on top of that, you have Veronica, who said that she was going to come after Hanna after blaming her for what happened to Melissa. But we have no follow-up on that, and it seems clear that if she was planning to go after Hanna, she would either use the same hitman who took care of Erica and David, or call someone else from that list of people that Derek gave her. And then on top of that, you have the Malones who are after Benny, so it wouldn't surprise me if a Malone is knocking on Hanna's front door and goes or breaks into the house and she's freaking out. So to be honest, there are so many possible people that could have the finger pointed at them for being the one to have somebody come after Hanna. And I think that it will be like a knee-jerk reaction that the first person who comes over to the house was sent over by Jim. But to be more specific, she said, if anything happens to my son, ooh. So maybe the Malones are still, do something to Benny. I don't know for sure, but I feel like something's going to happen that Jim isn't responsible for, and then everyone's pointing the finger at him, even Katherine, and that will actually lead to Hanna reacting, and then the end result is going to be, well, something that's going to be very unpleasant. But to be fair, it seems pretty clear that at least in the filming that took place last month for season 7, Jim and Hanna are both still alive, so I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how that turns out. But I will say this much. It seems like, we are definitely seeing different sides of various characters, like Jeffrey punching Justin in the face, electrocuting his mother, Hanna, literally being pulled by all ends by her children's actions. Like, to be honest, Hanna, I wouldn't say she's one of my favorite characters, but I am liking the fact she is getting some happiness with Derek. But this season has definitely been about Hanna dealing with the consequences of her children's own actions. So I think an even better question is, let's say something happens to Benny, Hanna assumes it's Jim, and then does something that, is a ripple effect. How would Katherine react to Hanna doing something to Jim because she assumes that Jim had something done to her son? Even though she did overhear Wyatt back in season 1 saying that, I think I hit someone, I think I killed him, and then went off that alone and assumed that he was the one that hit Benny, which she was right. It did, leave a gap between her and Katherine's friendship. But then on top of that, let's move on. Let's say, how would Katherine react to Hanna doing something to Jim? Because let's say if he indeed did something, let's say for fact, let's just theorize here. Let's say Jim did have something done to Benny in order to threaten him in order to get the money back. Okay, that's one thing. Hanna does something to Jim. How would Katherine react to that? Would she not be completely? I think Katherine would be more understanding, so to speak, because she could definitely see how Hanna was pushed to this point. But then flip that around. We know for a fact that everybody knows Candace, Hannah's daughter, had been messing around with her husband, extorted. I mean, well, look, $7.4 million, $100,000 in a sports car, then the $8.8 million and whatnot. So we're dealing with almost 20. We're dealing with over $15 million worth of, you know, money from her family and whatnot. And not to mention, you know, Candace being part of the prostitution ring within her hotel that she has a huge share in, and Candace indirectly being responsible for their daughter's death. Oh, what was it? Inadvertently. We know that Hanna won't even allow Katherine to call her daughter a whore or anything like that. So what if Katherine actually had something done to Candace? And I'm telling you, in that episode, you know, a couple episodes ago, when she was giving Candace that death stare when she was walking away from her at the elevator, that just let me know, oh shit, is Katherine going to do something to Candace? If Hanna found out that Katherine had something done to Candace, you know she's going to flip out. But to be completely honest, Katherine has way more reasonable motivation to do something to Candace than Hanna does at doing something to Jim. I'm going to be completely honest here. Now, don't get me wrong. Jim has been a son of a bitch multiple times to Hanna, you know, like trying to cover up the hit and run when his son hit her son and threatening Hanna on multiple occasions and whatnot. But at the same time, that's not like over $15 million worth of damage in terms of, you know, taking it from the family. You know, basically, Hanna hasn't had $15 million or more taken from her. Hanna hasn't had her marriage ruined by the child of another family. Do you see what I mean here? So I'm not really trying to justify that one person should kill another, but it's just like the pot calling the kettle black. It's like Hanna shouldn't lash out if Katherine does something to Candace, which I understand. That's a mother. You're a mother. That's your child. But at the same time, you talk about how these kids are going to pay for their stupid actions and whatnot. But at the same time, you're not allowing them to deal with the consequence. Like, I know it hurts and you don't want your child knowingly harmed. But at the same time, it's like you really can't preach to them about doing the right thing. And then, hey, you're doing something wrong. You're going to have to, it's going to catch up to you at some point. So you really shouldn't stand in the way of them being punished. I mean, like with the Benny situation, I mean, if anything, Hanna said one good thing is that you really want to piss off and talk. I forgot if Hanna or Katherine said this, but do you really want to threaten and piss off the person who has the money that I'm trying to give back to you? If anything, you would think they could work together to convince Benny to sign the documents, because her saying I'll take care of it isn't really reassuring due to the fact that it was past 3 p.m. You went to the bank and you tried to talk to your son. And I can definitely understand. It's like, look, if you took $8.8 million from me, you said you would handle it and you didn't. Well, hell yeah, I'm going to hit the ceiling. But I wish they would have worked together to get this done instead of having this big explosion of emotions, because I can see both sides of the scenario. So I want to let you all finish this conversation in the comments, but how do you think Hanna will do something to Jim? Do you think that somebody will come over to her house later that night and then she'll assume that Jim is the one that did it? And do you agree with what I was talking about before? Like, oh, if Hanna did something to Jim, do you think Katherine would be more understanding to the situation as opposed to Katherine doing something to Candace and then Hanna, you know, hit the ceiling and just throw everything behind? And one last thing. So I might touch upon this in another video about Katherine and Hanna. You notice how when you look back at this show in this entirety from episode 1 to the present, is Hanna really has this thing where she will like leave a situation that doesn't feel right out of, you know, fear because it doesn't feel right, but also because she doesn't want to be treated a certain kind of way. But to be honest, I think that she was treating Katherine worse than Jim treated Hanna up in the house, because it was almost like a guilt by association. Like, you see everything your husband did to me, yet you're still married to him. Keep in mind that nobody made Hanna give up anything. Nobody made her leave the car. Nobody made her quit her job. Nobody made her say that within the end, by the end of the month, I want to be gone from the house. Her reaction to Katherine, you know, I think she told Derek, like, you know what, if she gets mad at me the way Jim just did, she will like cut me off and throw me out of the house. I don't want that. That's exactly why Benny borrowed the money from the Malones back in like episode 1 or 2 of the season, when he told Mitch that, man, we up in this house, but what if that woman gets pissed off and whatnot? She'll just throw us out on the street. I don't want that. Very interesting, because if anything, if you look back at the Chosen, you also see a similarity between Hanna and Candace, and the fact that Candace was telling Charles something about this doesn't feel right, and I don't trust things that don't feel right, which is a clear quality of her mother. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think that somebody's going to come for Candace or come for Benny, but it's not someone that Jim sent? Hanna overreacts, assumes it's Jim, and then freaks out, and then decides to have something done to him, and then we'll have to see what the end results will be. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and to be honest, once again, I never thought I would be doing a video on this particular subject.